Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are living in a rather strange and bizarre world. Lots of things are happening in the world, and we must begin to make preparations for the second coming of Christ, our Lord. Now, many of us, have been waiting for years for the return of Christ, and we have been looking at the prophetic happenings, the prophetic occurrences around the world. We know that the United States is going to play a very fundamental role, a critical role in prophecy. Now, the recently held US presidential election saw the election of Donald Trump, who is now the president-elect of the United States, who will be assuming the role of president on January 20th, 2025. But what many people have not really learned is that the Catholic Church brought Donald Trump to power. A lot of times we have been focusing on the Latino vote and also on the working class vote, the white working class, and also, the increase of votes that he received from African Americans. But many people are not speaking, are not emphasizing the Catholics, the Catholic Church's role, their critical role, their pivotal role in bringing Donald Trump to the office of the presidency. So let's look at some of the facts that we have gathered in terms of Donald Trump. Now, let's look at the Fox News, right? So this is on Fox News, and they say Catholic swing voters were critical to Donald Trump's blowout victory. Harris snubbed us. So Kamala Harris snubbed us, and she repeatedly affirmed our deepest fears about her animus and bigotry towards Catholics. Now, that is what the Catholic Church is saying, or a representative of the Catholic Church. Now, this was written by Peter Pinedo, and perhaps he himself is a Catholic. Now, let's look at what they're saying here. Catholic voters across the country swung massively towards former President Trump in the 2024 election, contributing to his surprise blowout victory on election night. Catholics were evenly split between President Biden and Trump in 2020, with 50% favoring Trump to 49% favoring Biden. Now, for those of you who do not know, President Biden is a staunch Catholic, right? He is, and he has not hidden that. And he has suggested that the Catholic social teachings would have informed his presidency, or in fact, informed his presidency. And Donald Trump, many people think that he is a self-described Presbyterian. So that's factual. That is what he describes himself to be. Maybe that's a church that he grew up in, but many people do not know that Donald Trump also is Jesuit trained, because he actually went to Fordham University 2 years, in which he studied the philosophy and the doctrines of the Jesuits. And for those of you who don't know about the Jesuits were the organization that came up in Spain. It was created by Loyola. Got his name now. Yeah, Loyola and de la Loyola. Yeah, I forgot his full name. And he was the one who actually formed that organization. It's a fraternity. And the fraternity, this secret organization, was formed specifically for destroying, as it were, for annihilating the Protestant Reformation, because the Catholic Church thought that the reformers were directly opposed to the teachings of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church wanted to maintain its supremacy in the religious political realm. And therefore, they sought and they fought tooth and nail to ensure that the Protestant Reformation was not a success. Thank God it is, or was, a success. And that is, the United States was founded on the ashes of this grand Protestant revolution. So it is the largest Protestant nation in the history of the world. But since its founding, the Catholic Church, this is the founding of the United States, the Catholic Church has always sought to intervene and to destroy the Protestant ethos of the United States of America. And for those of you who have not yet read the book, 50 Years in the Church of Rome by Charles Chiniquy, I will here admonish you to read that book, because it speaks directly to the Catholic Church, the Vatican's role in the Civil War, in instigating the Civil War. And it was their hope that the Southerners would have won the North, and then the Vatican, that's the Roman Catholic Church, Roman Catholic papacy, would have taken over the United States right there when the Civil War was happening. Thanks be to God, Abraham Lincoln heeded the warnings of Charles Chiniquy, who was a former Jesuit priest, who told him that the Vatican had very, very, what should I say now, very antagonistic and hostile views and attitude towards the United States as a nation that believes in the separation of church and state. So that was a brief history. I hope that you'll get that book, The 50 Years in the Church of Rome. Try and buy that book or read it online. You can get a free copy online and read it. Catholics were even split between President Biden, so we talked about that. According to exit polling collected by Fox News on election night, Catholics across the country swung 9 percentage points in Trump's favor, with the former and now future president winning Catholics by 10 points. Bill Donahue, president of the religious civil rights group Catholic League, told Fox News Digital that Catholics resoundingly rejected Harris because of what he called a clear animus against Catholics. So they're suggesting that Kamala Harris had a clear animus against the Catholics. She was rejected primarily because she is associated with the politics of extremism, and that is something the American people will never countenance, he said. There are approximately 52 million Catholic adults in the United States, making it the largest religious denomination in the country. I repeat that. There are approximately 52 million Catholic adults in the United States, making it the largest religious denomination. So the United States, the Catholic Church is the largest denomination in a so-called Protestant nation. So the prophetic predictions of the books Daniel and Revelation are coming to pass. We can see right now where the Catholic Church is seeking to gain traction in the United States of America. It's no longer considered right now to be a Protestant nation, because if you have that, the Catholic Church is the largest religious denomination in the country, in the United States. This makes the United States now officially not a Protestant nation. Until now, political opinions among Catholic voters have been split between the two parties, leading many to believe that there is no such thing as a Catholic voting bloc. But in this election, the last election, we could see that there was, in fact, a Catholic voting bloc. Now, CNN, because CNN now is the so-called adversary of Fox, as so they say, right? We know that they play the same games and that they're in the same business. It's entitled here. Let me share my screen with you so you can see some of what is happening in our current affairs. Now we have, this is CNN World. It says here, how will Pope Francis and the Catholic Church navigate a second Trump presidency? They're pretending as if Pope Francis is hostile towards the Trump presidency. That is not so. Now, following Donald Trump's election victory, two senior figures in the Catholic Church gave very different reactions. In one corner was Archbishop Timothy Broglio, the president of the United States Catholic Bishops' Conference, who soon after this result was interviewed by Eternal World Television Network, a Catholic media outlet known for being sympathetic to Trump. Broglio, who is Archbishop for the military services, seemed relaxed about the election result and spoke about why he thought Catholic voters had swung behind Trump. He raised no substantive concerns about Trump's proposals to deport migrants, despite Pope Francis making welcoming migrants a persistent theme of his pontificate. Now, listen to what they're saying here. Striking a different tone was Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Holy See's Secretary of State. He diplomatically wished President-elect Trump much wisdom following his victory, urged him to be a president for the whole country, but pointed out that Trump did not have a magic wand to solve global problems. So what the Pope is, what the Secretary of State rather is suggesting is that Trump does not have the magic wand to solve global problems. But guess who? Guess who has the solution? The Vatican. You're going to realize very soon that the Vatican is going to say that it is the source of moral authority, and therefore it is God's representative. It is the vicar of Christ on earth, which it is not, but it suggests that it is. It claims that it is Christ vicar on earth. So eventually it's going to say to the United States politicians, when the problems cannot be solved, not only in the United States, but on the global scene, it will suggest that it is the only solution to the global problems that are afflicting humanity. Parolin warned against going to extremes on migration, saying the Vatican supports solving problems in a humane manner. So this is very, very important. And listen to what they're saying. Now, there's a new difficulty. CNN exit polls show that Catholics made up roughly 22% of the electorate nationwide in 2024 election, and that Donald Trump won them by about 58 to 40% against Vice President Kamala Harris. The polls shows a heavy swing to Trump from 2020, when President Joe Biden narrowly won over Catholic voters 52 to 47. Trump also carried swing states with high concentrations of Catholic voters. I'm going to repeat that. Trump also carried swing states with high concentrations of Catholic voters, including Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Wisconsin. It means, therefore, what you saw in the blue wall and in the swing states, as they're generally referred to, was impacted by the Catholic vote. And many of us were saying, how is it that Trump swept through all of those blue wall states? And now we're learning from CNN, right? You can't say now that this is a conspiracy theory and I am, making up the story, even though CNN, a lot of times, they also disperse conspiracy theories. But this one is coming from them, and you believe that. You believe whatever CNN tells you or what Fox tells you. So I'm suggesting, I'm reading verbatim from the CNN website, and you can see that CNN World, that the Catholic vote, the Catholic Church's influence, the Vatican's, the Catholic Church's influence on the voters in the swing state was really, really strong and potent, included. So with all of that, I have read it for you. So this is what we have to understand, that we are seeing the proliferation of the Catholic Church, the influence that it is having on US politics. This is concerning because this is prophetic, and the word of the Lord is what? True, and it is certain it is going to be fulfilled, because what? God says it. And I believe it, and it what? Settles it for me. We've got to now get our acts together, because we can see where Rome is now making way into what is known as the free world, as the what should I say? No, the most powerful nation in the world, the standard bearer of freedom and democracy in the world. Okay, that is the bastion. That's what I was using. The United States was once known, it's now far losing, to have been the bastion of freedom and democracy in the world. Now, I want you to take you now to another source here to show you how much influence the Catholic vote and the Catholic Church is having in what was once the most Protestant country in the world. Now, let's look at this article here from the National Catholic Reporter. So this is coming from the Catholic Church. So I'm giving you the news as it is, right? I'm not bringing you to other, sources that you might not have heard of or from. Now, in the EWTN interview, Trump claims he likes the Catholic Church a lot, right? Describing himself as a longtime supporter of the Catholic Church, former President Donald Trump cast himself as a champion of religion in a short interview with Raymond Arroyo of the Eternal World Television Network. I also like the Catholic Church a lot. Trump, clad in a tuxedo, told Arroyo before taking his the days at the 79th Alfred E. Smith Memorial Foundation dinner on October 17th. Now, Kamala Harris was absent from this meeting. And when she was not there, it really bothered me because I said, why isn't Kamala at the Alfred E. Smith Memorial Foundation's meeting? Because I know that that meeting is very important for the presidential candidates, because that's when they meet with the highest official of the Catholic Church right there in New York City. Now, during the 7-minute interview, which was broadcast on Arroyo's weekly world over television news magazine show, Trump sought to burnish his bona fides with conservative Catholics while attacking Vice President Kamala Harris, his Democratic opponent, in the 2024 presidential election. Referring to Harris as a Marxist, Trump claimed that Pope Francis was referring to him when the pontiff recently advised U.S. Catholics to vote for the lesser of two evils in the upcoming election. The Pope said both candidates, Harris supports abortion rights, while Trump has called for mass deportations of undocumented migrants, were against life. So the Pope is presenting himself as pro-life because he is anti-abortion and he is also anti the deportations of undocumented migrants. So he's he's making himself to be Christ, as it were, on earth, who sympathizes with the suffering of humanity. I think Francis wants Catholics to vote for me. This is what Donald Trump is saying. And I stand for everything that you stand for and that the church stands for, Trump told Arroyo, right? So this is what Trump is saying, that anything that the church stands for, Donald Trump stands for. This is the president-elect of the United States of America, submitting to the Vatican and to the Pope's ethos, philosophies, and creed. So we can expect that the Catholic Church will have untold influence, will have inordinate influence on the Donald Trump administration. We must begin to have our eyes open and to be alert at what is happening in the United States of America. But let me just end the video by looking at what this inspirational writer, Ellen G. White, had to say in The Great Controversy, liberty of conscience threatened. And this is a chapter, let me just open it, chapter 35, I believe. Romanism is now regarded by Protestants with far greater favor than in former years. In those countries where Catholicism is not in the ascendancy and the papists are not taking a conciliatory course in order to gain influence, there is an increasing indifference concerning the doctrines that separate the Reformed churches from the papal hierarchy. The opinion is gaining ground that, after all, we do not differ so widely upon vital points as has been supposed, and that a little concession on our part will bring us into a better understanding with Rome. The time was when Protestants placed a high value upon the liberty of conscience, which had been so dearly purchased. They taught their children to abhor. Now, this is what the servant of the Lord is saying. They taught their children to abhor popery. Even God requires that we abhor popery because of the fact that it is representative of the devil. It's not Christ vicar. It is the Roman Catholic Church is the vicar of the devil on earth. To abhor popery and held that to seek harmony with Rome would be disloyalty to God. But how widely different are the sentiments now expressed? Let me read this last paragraph. The defenders of the papacy declare that the church has been maligned, and the Protestant world are inclined to accept the statement. Many urge that it is unjust to judge the church of today by the abominations and absurdities that marked her reign during the centuries of ignorance and darkness. They excuse her horrible cruelty as a result of the barbarism of the times and plead that the influence of modern civilization has changed her sentiments. What declarations here, what statements that we are seeing here from Ellen G. White? which are really prophetic, because that's exactly what we're saying. We think we're living in modern times and that we are free. But if you look at what is happening, 9/11 and the Patriot Act, 1 and 2, we could not say things about what happened on 9/11 because you would have been, you know, all of that information was suppressed. You had to dig deep. You could not bring it to mainstream because mainstream would say that you are dealing in conspiracy theories. Fast forward to the pandemic. That also became even more stringent in terms of our rights to free speech, right? So now we're seeing that the Vatican has to be involved, has to be playing a role because they were once a church that didn't allow freedom of expression. And we see now the United States, which was once a bastion for free speech, a bastion for freedom and democracy in that country and around the world, is now following in line with the diktats of the Roman Catholic papacy. Donald Trump is saying that he is willing and will do everything because he has always loved the Catholic Church. He was trained as a Jesuit 2 years at Fordham University in the United States, right? And the Catholic Church has brought him to power in the previous election, in the election of November 5, 2024, right? The Catholic vote brought him to power. Wake up. We must see right now that the Vatican has been healing its wound, and very soon it is going to take over the United States and the world. And many of us will be surprised. Even those of us who are expecting that it will happen are not seeing the events leading up to that great event when the land beast, the lamb-like beast, will begin to speak like a dragon and will cause the entire world to wander after the beast. Thank you so much. Hope that you have learned something. See you in another video.